thriving personally and professionally. Smart Lawyers Position to Transition. I am Victoria Collier, and this is the Smart Lawyers Position to Transition podcast, special series, Life After Law. I am with our guest, Sarah-Nell Walsh, founder and CEO of Wayfinders. And today on Life After Law, we will be discussing how to have fun and make a lot of money while thriving. Smart Lawyers Position and Transition transforms the lives of attorneys who want better, more valuable law firms that in time want to sell them and have a life after law. The information provided is not intended to be legal, financial, or any other kind of advice, just great information, education, and sometimes entertainment. Well, many lawyers I speak with talk about surviving, like if they can just get through the day or the week or the month, or sometimes just the minute. Today, Sarah-Nell is going to share with us how you don't have to sacrifice yourself in order to thrive. Sarah-Nell Walsh is a professional certified coach and former practicing attorney. As CEO and founder of Wayfinders, LLC, she spends equal parts being a big-hearted cheerleader and a bold challenger, working with ambitious professionals who want to perform at the top of their game. Prior to coaching, Sarah-Nell was a litigation partner at an AmLaw 100 firm where she was recognized as Mentor of the Year in 2016. In addition to numerous industry awards, she has been recognized as Rising Star by Georgia Super Lawyers, same with me, and named among the legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine. And most importantly, Sarah-Nell is a mother of 2 of her own children as well as foster children. Well, welcome, Sarah-Nell.
Thank you so much. What a kind introduction.
Well, you are welcome. I'm excited that you're in Georgia. We haven't ever even met each other, and I'm in Georgia. So
I had no idea. We should get together.
We should. We're probably just around the corner. But between now and then, let's share with our audience why you have such a passion for helping women create intergenerational wealth. Because I know that you help lots of people, but that seems to be a passion that I understand you have more so than anything else.
Yeah, so, I really feel like women historically have been left out of the wealth game, and wealth gives you options. And it also allows you to shape and form society in ways that not having it doesn't. So you can support nonprofit causes that are close to your heart. You can support political candidates that are close to your heart and that align with your values. And you can also have a lot of choices about your career and how you spend your time when you have more wealth.
So absolutely. Women definitely have had, a different road than men. And still with, things have progressed a lot. And yet still, women are the primary caregivers and working versus just being the primary caregivers. And you yourself are a mother, not only of your own children, but you voluntarily foster other children. Share with us, that experience, if you don't mind, and how that impacts your work, your passion, and how you can inspire others because of it.
Well, I'll say a few things. One, I think a lot of kids come into foster care because their moms don't have the wealth to support their children, right? They get themselves into unsafe situations because they don't have the material resources to be able to support their kids. And so that's one of the reasons I've seen how having lack of access to resources, material resources, can really alter the course of your life as a woman. And being the person who's primarily responsible for the care of children historically, especially, if your partner's incarcerated. So that is one of the reasons that I am passionate about women creating wealth for themselves. The other one is that women are chronically paid less than men. It's worse in the legal profession. And so helping women advocate and getting the right strategies to advocate for their wealth is super duper important. But I became a foster parent in 2018. It was part of my how do I become the change that I want to see in the world on the heels of a tumultuous presidential election in America. And I decided that I would rather make deep change in the life of one or several people than try to make shallow change in the lives of many. And so that is what led me to being a foster parent. Most recently, I fostered a little girl who is now 4 years old. She's no longer with us. She left almost exactly a year ago. And her father was incarcerated. Her mother was had gotten herself into some bad situations, ended up actually being incarcerated herself or charged with some charges. And she was living with her grandparents who were poverty stricken, and they had a house fire. And her little sister was life flighted to Grady with her two siblings to their critical care unit, their burn unit. And Liliana had nowhere to go. And so she showed up at our doorstep. And we had her for just over a year until her sister was well enough that she could be reunited with her sister. And so now she's with her sister in North Georgia with a lovely foster family that handles medically fragile children.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds wonderful. And, as I talked about in the very beginning is, when I'm hearing lawyers talk about the difference between, just being able to survive the day, these are first world problems, right? And there's people who really are living to survive and not even thinking of thriving. And you're helping people get out of that survival mode to where they might even have a chance to thrive at some point. What is your definition, or based on your experience, of the difference between survival and thriving in real world, and then how can we translate that over to lawyers, law firm owners, women who are in the profession?
I think it's the same. I think that no matter whether you are dealing with meeting your basic needs or whether you have first world problems, so many of us are in fight or flight every day. And when you're in survival, you're really in that cortisol cycle. And your body doesn't know the difference between a bear chasing you or the police chasing you or the paper tigers of motions and briefs and opposing counsel chasing you. Your body doesn't know the difference. And so when I think about survival, I really think about that cortisol cycle and where people are in fight, flight, or freeze. Some lawyers that I've met are in long-term freeze. They are numbed out and they have been frozen for a long time. They've numbed their sensations. And then to come back down, they've got to come back down through fight or flight, which then feels really scary because they might get really angry, right? And so that feels really scary to get back to rest or digest. And I would say that thriving is where people feel safe and secure to pursue meaning. And it doesn't have anything necessarily to do with material success. So thriving is really where you feel that emotional and physical safety and security. You're sleeping well at night. You have space in your day to really be intentional and to prioritize. You are not panicked. You are not suffering from anxiety and depression chronically, right? And you feel like you have agency. Lawyers are some of the most intelligent people I've ever met, and they solve other people's problems brilliantly. But the number of lawyers that I have worked with and I have met who feel like they have no choices, they feel like they have no options. These are people who are incredibly successful, and they don't feel like they have agency over their lives. And that is not thriving.
No. And you mentioned rest or digest. Tell us about that. What does that mean?
So when your body is in a state of safety and security, it's called rest and digest. So the two phases, when you think about your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, are fight, flight, and then at the top is freeze. And then rest or digest is when you're safe and when your body can actually sleep and it digests its food well. A lot of people end up chronically malnourished because their body is spending so much of its energy on fight or flight and they're not actually digesting their food well.
Okay.
None of these things I knew when I practiced law, P.S. But I have learned a lot of them since I stopped practicing law.
Well, and you were a
Um,
litigator, and that's a whole different world than just being a lawyer. I mean, not to take anything away from other types of law, but like, for example, I was a estate planning attorney. I could control my schedule. I could plan out when I draft a document and when I meet a client. But in the litigation world, you've got so much preparation for trial, and is it going to go? Is it not going to go? Hours and hours and hours and hours upon not sleeping to get prepared for something that may or may not even go. And so a lot of what I see, but I'd love your perspective on this, and that is that we sacrifice so much for our professions, for our children, for others, that we don't take care of ourselves. And so, in fact, we're sacrificing ourselves all for the others. And so, talk to us about that and how we can recognize it, maybe get out of the pattern so that we can start thriving and not surviving.
That's such a good point. One of my mantras with my clients is service, not sacrifice. So how can you be in service to your clients, in service to your family? But where is that line between service and sacrifice? And what are the signs for you that you have crossed that line from service into sacrifice? And for each person, it's different. Everyone has a different threshold. I would say for me, when I practiced law, I was over on sacrifice all the time. I mean, I would never recommend that any of my clients work the way I worked when I practiced law. I led a really big team. I had a nationwide practice. I was working oftentimes on and off from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. I say on and off because I was momming, right? Like I'd work from 5 to 7, and then I'd get my kids up, and then I'd go to work at 9, and then I'd come home, and then it's a dance that many lawyers, especially litigator moms, are familiar with. And then the logging back on late at night and doing some work and figuring out what's going on. And so I think that, there isn't enough time. Time is the finite resource. There isn't enough time to do everything well. And so the one thing that is at the bottom of the list for most women lawyers, but also a lot of my male clients as well, is their personal well-being. And so if you're going to choose between going to your kid's baseball game and working out, you're going to go to your kid's baseball game. If you're going to choose between going to the doctor and responding to discovery, you're going to cancel your doctor's appointment and respond to the discovery. And so people end up at the bottom of their to-do list constantly, and they say, one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to reschedule that doctor's appointment. One day, I'm going to regularly exercise. But they never have enough time. The work keeps on coming. Work is infinite. Time is finite. And so it just never gets better.
And I end up seeing it when they're so burned out, they think that, oh, I should just sell my law firm or get out of my firm, right? Close it down or sell it. And that's not always the answer, right? I mean, while I would love to help people sell their firm, oftentimes they're just what I would call burned out versus really wanting to get out. And so let's just assume that it is somebody who's burned out because they've been frozen for so long. They don't want to go to that fight or flight because you have to feel that,
Scary.
right? Yeah, it is scary. But how can it be different? So let's say that, we recognize the signs, man, I really need to take care of myself so that I can actually have a better relationship with my son when we're at the ball game and I'm not thinking about that, brief that I need to do. How can it be different?
So there are so many ways. First of all, I would say that I recently learned that there are 3 degrees of burnout. So there's 1st degree burnout, 2nd degree burnout, and 3rd degree burnout, and figuring out where you are, because I would say that a lot of the clients I work out are in 3rd degree burnout, which means that they those are the people that feel like they have lost their agency, right? They're the people that can't solve problems for themselves anymore. They don't see a way out of where they are. And we're offering, me included until recently, we're offering them 1st degree burnout solutions for this 3rd degree burnout, which is so extreme. And so I would say really take stock of how burned out are you. If you are burned out, like you're tired of what you're doing and you want to find another way, that's like first degree burnout. And I would say a really good thing to do then is to figure out what full looks like. So for you, what is a full workload? And then how do you start drawing boundaries with your clients, if you're the boss, you don't have an employer, right? But if you have a boss, with your employer, around what full looks like for you, whether that's 6 hours a day for some of my clients, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 14 hours a day. There's no judgment on what full looks like, but we start getting burned out when we start acting beyond what our capacity is. And then figuring out, so what is full for me? And then how much work can I say yes to keep myself full? And then how can I start practicing saying yes when? Yes, I would love to help you when, this thing happens. Or yes, I can totally draft that will for you. I have a few things on my plate right now. So can we have our initial meeting in 2 weeks or 4 weeks? The main thing is setting expectations with our clients. They don't need everything done immediately for the vast majority of our clients, but they do want to know when it's going to happen. And so telling people, I'm slammed right now. Yes, I would love to help you. And I'm going to touch back base with you in 2 weeks, right? As opposed to trying to take everything as it comes in. I also think that there are some things that we need to make non-negotiable. We need to put ourselves on our client list, and certain things for people need to have priority, whether that's seeing your therapist if you have mental health challenges, whether that's exercise to control your anxiety, whether that's going to your regular routine doctor's appointments, and holding those the way that you would hold court hearings on your calendar and just having them be totally sacred. Those are some ideas of ways that you can start prioritizing yourself again and getting out of the habit of self-neglect.
So you were a litigator. Talk to us about that and when you made the shift to say, I don't want to do that anymore. What was going on for you and how has your life been after law?
Such a great question. So I decided very suddenly to leave the practice of law right after my foster twins left our home. So foster kids come into your house and they can leave your house kind of just as suddenly as they come in. It's whiplash, right? And so we had found out, I think they gave us 5 days notice. It might have been less than that our twins were leaving. And so we were like trying to pack up all their stuff and get them ready to leave. And then they left, and they had been such a large portion of my life. I was practicing law. I was a litigation partner, but so much of my mental and physical energy had been going towards their well-being. They had some really severe behaviors and special needs. And so after they left and my energy went back to practicing law full time, it didn't feel as meaningful as it had in the past. The work that I was doing didn't feel as compelling as it had in the past. And I was working on a case, a construction defect case. There was a pretty significant piece of litigation. I was on the phone with opposing counsel, and we had come to a stipulation that we were supposed to file with the court. And I was explaining to him what the stipulation was and asking him if he wanted to draft it or if I should. And he was like, I didn't agree to that. And I was like, yes, you did. And I start walking him through when he agreed and how he agreed, and, and he was like, I don't remember that at all. And I was like, yes, you do. Remember, we were here and you said this and blah, blah, blah. He's like, no. And I keep pushing it. And finally he says, Sarah-Nell, if this was so important to you, you should have gotten it in writing. And he hangs up on me. And I'm like, what just happened? I don't understand. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, actually, I'm a damn good lawyer. So if he thinks I should have gotten it in writing, I probably did. So I go to my email, and I look it up. And sure enough, I had sent in a contemporaneous email where I had said, you agreed to XYZ. So I find the email, I send it to him, and I'm like, hey, just to refresh your recollection, here's the email I sent confirming our agreement on such and such date, just after the court hearing, just like I had told you you did. And still thinking it was an honest misunderstanding. because I had just come off this amazing experience where people had been so supportive of our family while we had these foster kids, and the universe had been so kind to us in amazing and beautiful ways during this really, really hard time in our life. And he writes me back, if this is so important to you, you get this one. And I was like, I don't get anything. You agreed to it. Like this, I didn't
right.
like you're not doing me a favor. Like we actually like negotiated this out and you agreed to it.
Right.
And basically he was trying to gaslight me into dropping it and into thinking that he hadn't agreed to this. And it was so dishonest and it was so ugly. And in that moment, I thought, if I stay in this profession, I am going to become skeptical. I am going to become distrusting, and it is going to fundamentally change who I am. And I am not willing to sacrifice these essential parts of myself that I actually really like. Like, I like this about myself. I like that I'm trusting. I like that I'm open-hearted. These are things I like about myself. And so right after that whole thing happened and I was like stunned, I called my former husband and I said, I'm done. I'm no longer practicing law anymore. They can pack up my shit and mail it to me. That's literally what I said. My husband was like, no. You're not done like that. But in that moment, it was like this. I was like, I'm not going to do this. So I made a promise. This was August of 2019. And I said that by, August of 2018. And I said that by May, I would no longer be practicing law. By my 40th birthday, I would no longer be practicing law. And my last day at my law firm was February 28th.
All right. And so how did you decide to start your company, Wayfinders, and helping other lawyers stay in the profession and enjoy it?
Yes. That is a common misconception, is that I coach people out of the practice of law. I've actually never coached anyone out of the practice of law. I love lawyers and I want them to love their jobs. But I was trying to find my next step that was going to allow me to continue to use my gifts. And what I discovered as I was trying to figure out what to do next, and I explored a lot of different possible professions in a very short period of time. I was doing like all the informational interviews. I treated it like a more than full-time job to figure out what my next step was. As the primary breadwinner, it was really important that I get it right. And so I wanted to find something where I could continue collaborating with brilliant people, which is one of the things I loved most about practicing law. My law partners were brilliant, amazing strategists, and talking to them was so fun, as were my clients. I wanted to continue serving as a trusted advisor. I loved nothing more than when a client would call me and say, hey, Sarah-Nell, what do you think about, right? And like pose some ridiculous hypo that wasn't a hypo. That was like so fun. And so I wanted to continue serving as a trusted advisor, and I wanted to keep solving hard problems. Like, that's what I loved about practicing law, was helping people puzzle through, how do we do this in a way that both achieves our solution and is good for our business and is in alignment with our values and is cost effective, right? All of those things, which is what you're doing as a litigator. You're balancing and weighing and helping your clients make decisions based on a variety of different factors. And I wanted to keep doing that. And where I landed after all of my machinations was that I could do that as a coach. Okay. And so I applied to the Hudson Institute coaching program. I had never been a coach before, although I had worked with several coaches in the past. And I crossed my fingers that I would like it as much as I thought I would. Thank God I have. So it's been a great fit.
Yeah, I mean, I could just hear and because I get the benefit of seeing your face, just the energy shift in you when you talk about it, which is, much higher than when we were talking about the other stuff. So how can people who are listening to this find you if they want, the kind of coaching that you provide, and give us one example of what your perfect type of client looks like?
So I work with a lot of small law firm owners. So if you are a law firm of under, I'd say 10 people, I work with a lot of those owners because you are wearing the hat of an entrepreneur, of a manager, of a lawyer, of a business developer, of a marketer. And it is a hard job to do, especially without a sounding board. And so I would say that I work with those clients a lot, and I help them. I actually do a lot of team coaching with their whole teams to up level performance and to increase profitability and efficiencies and devise systems and workflows so that they can all do their jobs more effectively and efficiently. And then I also work with a lot of members of executive committees in big law. So I would say big law leaders. So practice group managers, EC members, office managing shareholders or partners. I work with them because, again, they've got a lot of competing priorities. They're practicing law, they're leading the law firm, they're managing clients, they're managing cases, and it's a lot of different hats to wear at the same time.
So how can people who fit those profiles reach out to you if they want to benefit from your services?
They can find me at www.wayfinders-atl.com, or they can find me by entering Sarah-Nell Walsh, SARAH-NELL space WALSH into their LinkedIn search bar, and they will find me. I'm a very active LinkedIn user. So all other social media, not so much. Like, don't come find me on Instagram or Facebook. You won't receive a response, like probably in the next quarter, but I am on LinkedIn every day.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sarah-Nell, for sharing your experience with us on our special session, Life After Law, today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
You're welcome. Well, we have been speaking with Sarah-Nell Walsh, founder and CEO of Wayfinders, LLC. Tune in for our next Life After Law series, which will be posted once a month on the fourth Thursday of every month. Smart Lawyers Position and Transition provides you with great information. Life After Law provides you with great inspiration. Become a serious listener and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Additionally, become a member of our private Facebook group called The Art of Buying and Selling Law Firms, where you will get registration links for free seminars for members and other great information. You can get more information about Quid Pro Quo and myself, Victoria Collier, your host, at our website, quidproquolaw.com. The show is available 24/7 online anywhere you listen to podcasts, so invite all your friends and have a podcast listening party too.